Manel Kape has done everything right. He's taken out every flyweight put in front of him, yet he still may not be fighting Joshua Van next. After defeating Kyoji Horiguchi, Kape should be next in line for a title shot. The problem is, he may not be. But Kape's title hopes have one problem, and it has nothing to do with Manel Kape. You know exactly who stands in his way. And the truth is, there's no easy answer as to who deserves the title shot next at Joshua Van. Because while Kape has earned his opportunity through merit, Alexandre Pantoja may have earned it through legacy. And that's where the flyweight conundrum begins. To understand why we're even in this position, we need to start with Manel Kape. After losing to Muhammad Mokaev, it looked like he may never get this close to a title shot. But instead of wallowing in defeat, he went back to work. Bruno Silva, Asu Amabayev, Brandon Royval, and now Kyoji Horiguchi. 4 straight wins against 4 elite opponents. That should make him the #1 contender. Should. But Alexandre Pantoja isn't just another contender. He's one of the flyweight's most dominant champions ever. And if he's healthy, there's a very real argument that he deserves the opportunity too. So, who should fight Joshua Van next? Is it Manel Kape, the contender who's done everything right? Or is it Alexandre Pantoja, the former king looking to reclaim his throne? That's why the answer is easy. It's Manel Kape. And I know what you guys are thinking. I know you're sitting here telling me, no, Pantoja absolutely deserves the rematch. He needs to run it back with Joshua Van because of how the first fight ended with the 26 seconds injury to his arm. And I agree with you. I think Alexandre Pantoja deserves a title shot. But I also think Manel Kape deserves it more. And that's no disrespect to what Pantoja's done for the sport. Again, he was having conversations during his title reign as maybe he is better than Demetrius Johnson. That's how good he was. And the way he lost the title, understandably, he deserves a rematch. But A, he needs to be ready 100%. And two, he needs to prove he needs to come back. And he's as good as he once was. Because let's be honest here, guys. Pantoja might not be the same fighter once he gets back. It's almost a year layoff by the time he finally fights again, probably. And with his arm going how it did, not quite breaking, or it might have broken, who knows? The injury report, I don't think really was ever conclusive. He wasn't released to us. He may not be the same fighter when he comes back. He may not be able to strike the way he did. And that will be a problem for Pantoja. Meanwhile, you have Manel Kape here going out, rattling off 4 wins, seemingly getting his pull-out career together. He's 4 wins. You know, Bruno Silva's a good win, but then he wins against a Asu Amabayev who looks really good, beats a Brandon Royval who's top of the line, and then he beats Kyoji Horiguchi last night. I have a hard time saying that Manel Kape doesn't deserve the title shot. I think he does. I think he deserves it more than Pantoja based on the fact of merit, what he's done. Sure, there's a lot of merit with Pantoja and what he's done in the past, but that doesn't afford him to jump contenders like he has or is supposed to against Manel Kape. Kape deserves a title shot more than anybody else in the division. And let's be honest, a fight with Joshua Van's super fun, and he can win that fight. I really was pulling for Horiguchi, though. I'll be honest. But I think that's a much more fun fight. But against Joshua Van, a fighter who does get hit, but who's also a very crisp and technical fighter, Manel Kape has a 50-50 shot at that fight. I mean, let's be real. Like, we saw a Kyoji Horiguchi sitting there and picking them apart. Now, Horiguchi mixed in the takedowns. Joshua Van's not going to mix in takedowns like that. If he's smart, he would, but he's not. Manel Kape catches you, and it's lights out. Game over. Flyweight hasn't seen power like Manel Kape since Davison Figueiredo. Do you remember Davison Figueiredo marching down Joseph Benavidez? Speaking of, Manel Kape passed up Joseph Benavidez for most knockouts in flyweight history. Can you imagine marching him down? Figueiredo did that. That's the kind of power Manel Kape has. He's quick, fast on his feet. His hands are clever. And against Joshua Van, it's a tough fight, but it's a winnable fight, and I think he can win it. Now, again, Horiguchi was winning that fight. He found really good success mixing in the takedowns, doing the overhand to knee tap, which he's always done. He's done it a lot in Rising, and it does well here. And he managed to control large stretches of this fight on the ground. I thought Horiguchi was going to win this fight. I just thought, after watching the first fight, which was admittedly a decade ago, but after watching the first fight and then watching, the careers of them, I was like, oh yeah, this Horiguchi got this. He was the favorite. He was a slight favorite. And I was like, okay, he might be the slight favorite, but he's the big favorite in my eyes. And I might be, biased because I love Kyoji Horiguchi more than anybody else. But, his footwork was really keeping him out of trouble a lot. He was in and out. He was getting hit, which you're going to against Manel Kape. But it was the wrestling that really made Manel Kape, have room for pause. Manel Kape was so worried about the takedown, he was throwing his hips back on any step in Kyoji Horiguchi had. If he dropped his rear hand, Kyoji Horiguchi, that is, Manel Kape was shooting his hips back, and it was a bad look. He was losing his power base under him and wasn't able to land effective strikes until he kept his power base under him and landed an effective strike and had Horiguchi kind of chicken dancing out there in the cage. That second round, Kape, he put on the pressure. And that third round, he put on the pressure a little too hard. But, I worry about his gas tank, but he's shown me no reason to believe it. He's been made to work before. It was really the Mokaev fight that kind of does that. But then he gets on the ground, he starts battering Kyoji Horiguchi up, and it was crazy. Jack Slack talks about the uppercut underneath the arm. It's always the punch that you never see coming. Jack Slack talks about it. The GOAT, right? And that's, he uppercuts right underneath Horiguchi's arm and literally face plants Horiguchi. If you listen to Jack Slack, put your money on him mentioning it next episode, because that's what's going to happen. As for what's next for Kape, Pantoja, that's really the linchpin there. What do they want to do with Alexandre Pantoja? How do they want to treat his time away? As hey, we owe you for stepping in over and over again for us, so here's your title shot, a rematch against Joshua Van. Or will it be, Manel Kape getting the title shot? And if Kape doesn't get the title shot, it needs to go to Manel Kape versus Tatsuro Taira. And the reason I say this is Manel Kape's wrestling is still untested. And sure, Josh Van is not a wrestler per se, but I still have those wrestling questions about him. So if he can't wrestle, we got us a problem. Tatsuro Taira is the perfect person to find that out. Now, Taira gets hit a lot too, so we'll learn about Tatsuro Taira. Can he handle power punches like Manel Kape brings to the table? I think Kape needs to be next, though. I do. I think his 4 wins trump the legacy that Pantoja built really quickly like he did. So, in your co-main event, Navajo Stirling defeats Ion Cutelaba, round 2 TKO. Ion Cutelaba, everybody likes to poo-poo on him because of his record, and he loses a lot. But Ion Cutelaba is a tough test for people at 205, especially with how shallow it is. You see, his wrestling is very good. His trips off the fence, very good. He knows how to win a fight, and he's won fights like that before. Everybody was hyped on Navajo Stirling. They think he's the next great thing because he's City Kickboxing, but you've already got a champion at City Kickboxing at 205. So, what's going to happen there? Is he going to move up to heavyweight? No, who knows, right? His upper body, Cutelaba's that is, his upper body takedowns are great. He always, gets to a clinch, pushes you against the fence, and has that really good pulling the leg out style and throwing you on the ground. That's something that he constantly does time and time again. And he did that here, and he managed to get on top of Navajo Stirling, who, credit where credit's due, Navajo Stirling did a good job of staying composed underneath, not, getting beat up too much, not, fighting out of that submission, that guillotine, because Ion Cutelaba had that standing guillotine that was really nasty for a little while. It looked like we were going to get back-to-back after Christian Rodriguez. But he stayed composed, and he managed to do his thing. Seemingly, Ion Cutelaba never had a great gas tank, and he's kind of made that better here. And in the post-fight show, Navajo Stirling said something about he may have hurt his stomach or something like that because he let out an exhale or something along those lines. But anyways, Ion Cutelaba kind of just gave up, sat on the fence, and got beat up for a couple seconds. So Navajo Stirling really, I don't think he's anything special, guys. At 205, he doesn't stand out to me as a world-breaking new striker. Like, can you imagine him against a Yuri Prohaska or against an Ankalaev? Like, Ankalaev would maul this guy, you know? Even maybe like Rakic might not even have a hard time with him. I just don't think he's that great. Khalil Roundtree, Paulo Costa, Murazakhanov, you know, Volkan Ozdemir had some good game plans in recent. You know, you get to the bottom of like the Alonzo Menafields and the Johnny Walkers, who's probably moving up, Nikita Krylov, and you start to see fighters that he can win as if he keeps improving. But I don't know who he should fight next. Definitely not anybody ranked. Dustin Jacoby is the one I want to see. Ion Cutelaba is the most active or most takedowns among active light heavyweight fighters. So he really kind of out of the weeds there. I think Dustin Jacoby's the one. Let's test his striking against a fighter that's given a lot of hard fights to top tier fighters, and one that is, you know, kind of on his way out, but Dustin Jacoby gets the job done. Navajo Stirling is the one. All right, next, Christian Rodriguez defeated Hyder Amil with a guillotine in round 1. This was the fight that I picked to be the best on the card, and it really wasn't. Horiguchi Kape was the best, in my opinion, but Hyder Amil looking to draw a brawl out of C-Rod, and he didn't quite get that. C-Rod did a good job of staying composed and being a tough fight. So you watch Hyder Amil kind of poking at Christian Rodriguez, kicking his legs, you know, kind of coming forward. Hey, are you going to throw, dude? Are you going to throw so you can overextend and I can make this a dogfight? That's what Hyder Amil wanted to do. Christian Rodriguez was having none of that. I mean, none of it. The dude said, hey, I'm good with my 1-2s, and he would constantly land the 1-2s, constantly land low kicks, throw up the high kick, kind of teasing it to Hyder Amil. And it was those 1-2s, and you know the forward pressure of Hyder Amil is going to be there, so it's on Christian Rodriguez to deal with it. Now, Hyder Amil is going to throw high kicks and body kicks, so the way Christian Rodriguez dealt with that was kind of good. He grabbed the kick and he would threaten the takedown, or he would, you know, just punch him off of it or whatever. So that took away the kicks from Hyder Amil, and you saw, as the short as the fight was, Hyder Amil kicking a lot less. So he's taking away the kicks, so you can only kick me low. That's fine. I can step in and land the cross. And Christian Rodriguez landed a bunch of crosses as Hyder Amil was you know, kicking low. And then, you know, walking along the punches, Amil's coming forward, and then C-Rod kind of said, okay, you're coming forward. He plants off his back foot. Boom. Think Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling. Sterling's coming forward, and Sean O'Malley plants off that back foot. You know, he switched stances. Christian Rodriguez didn't, but still, the concept's still there. And then he lands the cross. So he did that a couple times too. But what put him down was a high kick. And Hyder Amil was just stepping in, kind of getting a little too crazy. Hands went down, and he caught a shin to the face. Didn't put him out immediately. So, you know, Christian Rodriguez goes to work. Hyder Amil comes up on a leg, and Christian Rodriguez grabs that guillotine. Oh. And it wasn't a traditional guillotine where he locks it under his arms. No, he went palm to palm and squeezed the crap out of Hyder Amil's neck. And DC had the perfect call on this. He's like, oh, that's tight. He's going to sleep right here. And sure enough, right then you can see his eyes just kind of like that. Oh my gosh, just a nasty guillotine. I mean, those front headlock submissions in MMA are so important, especially if you're a decent sprawler type guy. If you can even just threaten it, you know, threaten a guillotine or a ninja choke. You know, what's his name? Vicente Luke made a career off of the Darce. Tony Ferguson too. You know, you just got to be good off of these front headlocks, and Christian Rodriguez managed to score off of that. I like Larry Ann Douglas for C-Rod. I think that's a really cool fight. You know, Larry Ann's got these great hands. Let's see just how good Larry Ann Douglas is. You know, remember he made his debut and just looked like the daredevil, just whacking and just going at it, bro. Vinicius Oliveira is another one I think would be fun for C-Rod. You know, Vinicius is probably going to move him to a ranked fight soon, but I think he needs a little more time to acclimate at 145. Murtazali Magomedov defeated Melsik Baghdasaryan. That's a mouthful. Scottish Twister round 1. Wow, you know. this guy's a problem. Magomedov is a real problem at 145. The dude can strike. He's got 5 knockouts, 6 submissions, and 11 fights. 100% finishing rate. Coming off the Contender Series, Kyrgyzstan. I'm looking at his stuff here. His debut was nothing short of spectacular. He ground and pound punches and a bunch of quick knockouts. But he's gone 3 rounds before, twice. He's been in the 3rd round, so he can finish you late. And here he managed to come up and push Baghdasaryan to the fence. And he does that thing everybody's been doing where it's like, okay, I'm going to pull your leg out from under you. And that's where he created room for the hooks to get in, because Baghdasaryan was against the fence trying to wall and stall his way into a better position and prevent Magomedov from getting the back. Right, so he's got his back against the fence. So Magomedov does the Islam Makhachev does this great where he pushes you against the fence and then he'll pull your leg out and trip you. We talked about Ion Cutelaba doing that earlier too. And Magomedov got his feet in, his hooks in, and they go to the ground. And sure enough, Magomedov locks in the body triangle, and Baghdasaryan tries to start turning into him. Where that's where Magomedov kind of says, okay, cool, you're turning into me. Starts working him off to the side, and then reaches over, executioner guillotine style, and starts to torque on that twister. Just nasty stuff. He tapped quick too. That was a painful knockout. Magomedov, I'd say who's next one, but there's so many people with your first fight in UFC. There's so many people out there that he could go against. I don't think it's worth talking about right now. But Vinicius Oliveira battered up Andre Fili. Round 2 TKO. And it looked like Andre Fili had a really good game plan at first. Andre Fili brought forth some good pressure. And, he had Vinicius Oliveira with the 1-2, really straight punches, making sure Oliveira was getting beat to the punch. A lot of low kicks from Oliveira early on really kind of slowed down Andre Fili. And they were heavy low kicks too. But Oliveira, in between rounds, kind of, he made an adjustment, and that adjustment was, hey, he's not going to go if I punch first. And sure enough, he didn't go. Andre Fili did not go when he was punching first. So Andre Fili just starts unloading just the nuclear bombs onto Andre Fili. I mean, shot after shot. Whap, whap, whap. And as much of a not fan I am of Vinicius Oliveira, I will admit when he's hitting, because I don't like Vinicius Oliveira. Let me backtrack on that for a second. I don't like Vinicius Oliveira a little bit because he fights weird. His hands are always down, really weird hands and all that. So I get that he's got God-given power, but we saw against like Mario Batista at 135, which everybody swore is the weight cut. I think it's more to it than that, but we saw that, and we're like, okay, I get behind that. I can make that work. And, Vinicius Oliveira just unloaded on him against the fence. Fili had no name for it, no answer for those. He couldn't get respect back from Vinicius Oliveira. Oliveira already took his best shot. Seems like, hey, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with exchanging here and dying in the process. Christian Rodriguez is next, I think. That's a fun fight. Timeline would add up. Both of them not very damaged. And they both fought on this card. But if you want somebody else, Morgan Sherry or the Last Pirates out there, you can do that in September on the undercard of Gane versus Aspinall if that ever gets made. And then William Gomez is another one. I accidentally picked 2 French guys, but Gomez would answer some questions about Vinicius Oliveira we have. Like, what happens if somebody puts him against the fence? Batista did in his fight. What happens when somebody wrestles him? William Gomez, not as exciting, but he can ask those questions of Vinicius Oliveira. The rest of the undercard was okay. Kevin Borjas and Andre Lima. Lima was supposed to win that fight. 11-0, and Borjas, kind of an okay fighter, had an okay fight with Josh Van, but wasn't supposed to win that. Borjas managed to do it just by sheer inactivity from Andre Lima. Bia Mesquita got rocked by Melissa Mullins and looked like she was on her way out of her undefeated 7-0 record until Melissa Mullins decided to have game plan of the year and say, hey, I'm going to go to the ground with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu savant world champion. And guess what happened? Can you guess? Do you know what happens when you decide to go on the ground with Gilbert Burns or, Bia Mesquita or Mackenzie Dern? You get submitted. So guess what happened? Bia Mesquita got an arm. And when she grabs your arm, there's not much you can do. Oh, she got armbarred. Just terrible, man. Horrible, brain dead IQ by Melissa Mullins. Get up, make her fight some more. Mitch Raposo took a split decision over Alan Nascimento. That sucks. I like Nascimento a lot. Gaston Bolaños managed to get a win against Michael Oswell. That's after a submission over King Lee. Oswell kind of just brain dead. Gaston Bolaños, man, came in. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience, really, really hyped up off of that episode, and just, I think he's just too battle worn. Michael Oswell is just not a great fighter. Levon Chokali defeated Leon Shabazian. I think this was more of a mismatch than people think. Leon Shabazian, brother of Edmund, not a good fighter. He's 12-4 coming in, shouldn't have been in here. Levon Chokali, though, this dude here, his hands are amazing. Ripped a body shot, comes over the top, leg kicked him, knocked him down. 23 seconds. All this happened in 23 seconds. I like Levon Chokali a lot. This dude is promising. I tweeted out. Nobody really liked it because I was just kind of being corny. But I was like, Georgia, because he ripped that body shot. I was like, Georgia, you have an Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria from Germany. You guys get it. Oh, yeah. Luana Santos beat Carol Rosa, and then Shane Collins defeat the other Georgian, Tanzavali. It's a unanimous decision to open up the card. This was, despite being an Apex card, this was an okay fight night. We had some really fun fights, some really good finishes, and I enjoyed it. Up next, we got Fiziev versus Torres coming up in Azerbaijan. Michelle Pereira and Shara Bullet, that's fun. Nazim Sadikov is here. Almabayev and Charles Johnson. There's a bunch. Abus Magomedov is here fighting Michelle Lectrick. I know I love Michelle. There's some good fights on this card, so I'm looking forward to that, and we'll be previewing that coming here soon. But in the meantime, guys, check out Fight Finders. Otherwise, you might miss out on something super fun and super cool. That's going to be it from me for today. Y'all like, subscribe. Y'all know. Later.